We seem to have lost Julia. Not quite sure what's going on there, but okay, Sevastopol, lovely. Cherpaviets, no, that's one place I have never been. Okay, Murmansk also, that's another place I have not been to. Lovely to hear where everybody's from. Victoria, Russia is a very big country. And I don't know, is saying I'm from Russia really helpful? Rostov, Kursk, Kazan, lovely. Okay, good. Prague, woohoo! Hey, not far from me. Not far at all. Okay, good to have people from various different places. Okay, for some reason this is not giving me everything as it comes. Oh, there we go. Okay. Right. Lovely. Lovely. Kalmykia. No, I haven't been to Kalmykia, and I'm very sorry about that. I'm very sorry about that. Almaty, that's another place I wanted to go to for a long, long time. Yeah, I have been there. Yeah, Krasnodar also. Excellent. Okay, so the message from Julia is that she has now connectivity problems, and so we are basically just going to start, shall we? Okay, yeah, They tell me Kalmykia is actually a very interesting place. Oh, good grief, we ate pancakes together, did we, Nadia? Wow. I miss pancakes. In fairness, I do miss pancakes. Nizhny Vartovsk, I've been there. It's a fun place. Israel, not been there. They tell me it's a very interesting place, though. Nizhny Novgorod, yeah, been there a number of times. Very nice. Nahodka. I was supposed to go to Nahodka when I was in Vladivostok one time, a couple of years ago, but there were reasons. I can't remember what they were reasons for. Teaching ground for Beck. Right. Oh, yeah. Because it's so different. Perm, yep. Perm was the very first place I went to in Russia. Okay, lovely. China, I've never been to China. Wow. Okay, lovely. Okay, we've got some very interesting places represented here, and I'm very happy to see so many of you interacting with me through the chat box, because that is pretty much what you're going to have to do. Okay, right. Stavropol, lovely. I remember Stavropol. Yeah, Yana, I would love to come to Nahodka. At the moment, I'm struggling to get a Russian visa due to prevailing issues, shall we say. Okay, lovely, lovely, excellent. What? Vyatskia Polyana? Okay, Belgorod. I was in Belgorod. Yes. Okay, good. Right, enough of this, enough of this. We're doing very well. So, yeah, as Julia said before we lost her, sadly, yesterday we talked a little bit about teaching grammar, and also about how we would go about assessing not just grammar in general, but Lexis as well, if we really had to. Yes, Armenia, I like Armenia a lot. Lovely, lovely people, fabulous, fabulous scenery, and great food. Always a good thing. Okay, right, and today we're going to be doing this. Okay, as ever, I'm not really going to read anything much out loud if it's on a screen, so feel free to screenshot as you go. St. Petersburg, yeah, it's a lovely place, isn't it? Okay, oh, right. Okay, lovely. Good. Now then, we need, we're going to think today about the usual things to do connected with Lexis and functional language. Now, I added functional language for a very good reason. Can anyone think of that reason? Why functional language? Why not just Lexis? Anybody in the chat box? Why functional language? Yeah. Yeah, collocations, but collocations also connected with vocabulary in general, but yes, for communication, absolutely, absolutely. Because when we speak, do we speak in words, in collocations, or do we speak in using functional language? Exactly. We speak in phrases, specific phrases that are guaranteed to send specific messages, so that we can achieve communication in different contexts. And we'll come back to functional language your register is very important with functional language, more important perhaps than with vocabulary. Although there are lexical items that you wouldn't use with your grandmother or your boss, particularly if you wanted to retain the job. Okay, so let's get going. And again, some of the time you're going to be guinea pigs, and some of the time I'm going to be asking sensible grown-up questions. Okay. Okay. Yeah, to you. Yeah, how the word is used in connected speech, but again, that should be, don't you think, a focus of both language, vocabulary, and functional language. Okay, but let's get on, shall we? Okay. Volgograd, Victoria, lovely. Okay. What's this? Okay, well done. Good point. It's a lemon. Okay. And what have I just done exactly? Okay, did I present it? What was that? I elicited, thank you, Zhenya, absolutely. I elicited it using a picture, a visual, as we say. I could equally, if I'd had a lemon, which I don't, but if I'd had a lemon in my kitchen, I could equally have held up a lemon to the camera and said, what's that? Exactly. So this is one of the easiest ways of eliciting vocabulary per se, isn't it? Okay. But it's not the only way, is it? So let's have a look. What am I talking about here? Yes. Is it a definition of lemon? I don't think so. Yes. A couple of people coming in now. Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Got people still send me a description. I know it's a description. Okay, yeah, I've got more and more people coming in now. Oh no, not a lemon. Exactly, Anna. Indeed. Yeah. Okay. Those of you reading carefully will have noticed that the word grapefruit was actually in the definition. Okay. Apparently, quite a few of you didn't notice that. How do people read? Okay. I suspect that some of you were reading the first sentence and just, okay, it's a description. Yes, fine. But we do need to read to the end of it. Okay. It is written, Eleanor, well done. Okay, so yeah, here I've chosen, instead of just showing the picture, sometimes there isn't a picture. Obviously, with a concrete item, there is always some kind of visual that you can show. But just sometimes there isn't, and we have to start thinking about a definition, for example. And in this case, I've added some information. Did you know where grapefruit... Thank you, Neil. Lovely. Yes. The things we learned as children. Okay, right. Exactly. Did you know where grapefruit actually comes from? I didn't. And I was quite surprised to find out that the world's largest grower of grapefruit is in every supermarket. It's from China, absolutely. And it was brought from the Far East into Central America, Central Northern America. Okay, yeah. So you can find different ways of describing something. Okay, you can also use visual yourself, can't you? For example, okay, this is a fruit. I can eat it whole. I can take a bite out of it. Oh, and indicate how sour it was, for example, as well. And I think this mimicry is also a much underused thing. Yeah, much underused. Okay, right. So what's the next thing? Yes. Having elicited our word, what's the next thing that we do with it? Very pleased to hear it, Agnes. Yeah, we need to model and drill. Okay. And then we need to think of, am I going to model and drill only the word? Grapefruit. Yeah. Okay. Or am I going to model and drill a whole phrase, for example? Okay. Yeah. In some cultures, depending on where you are, you need to be possibly quite insistent with some of the the sounds, the vowel sounds. Here in Germany, people tend to make the g, tend to make it a k, so I have kr, and then because it's APE, they say s, so I now have crepe fruit, which is not very far from crap fruit, which I've heard as well. And so it's a good idea to make that point, to know where you are and to know the problems that your local people will have when producing that, yeah, and hammer the point. It's grapefruit, it's grapefruit. You don't say crepes, you say grapes, say grapefruit, and so on and so on. I've not ever heard of gay fruit. I think somebody there producing gay fruit is really not reading it very well. And or their teacher is not modeling it very well. But yes, we need to think about, somebody has very sensibly put in there, check understanding, and this is a very important stage. Okay. If you have a picture and it is obvious to everybody what that item is, then clearly you don't need to worry too much about checking meaning, but sometimes it is useful. For example, you can see here a pink grapefruit and a white grapefruit. Are they both very sour? Okay, if they're not both very sour, which one is sour? Exactly, yes. The white flesh grapefruit is sour. It's eye-wateringly sour, and that's the one I can remember my grandfather eating every morning with sugar for that reason. But the pink one is a lot sweeter, and there are people who eat it without sugar. Obviously, red is a lot sweeter. Okay, right. Very good. So we have to check out these things, okay? If I were in a Russian-speaking context or an Armenian context, and I said, okay, this is something that my grandfather ate every morning for breakfast, would that mean anything to anybody? No. Exactly. So, how would you localize or personalize questions for grapefruit? Porridge, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, Olga. You know, I love Russia and the Russians. Porridge, no, could not get close to porridge. Omelette, yes. Right, omelets, happy to run with omelets. But there we go. Okay, so if you wanted to clarify what a grapefruit was for a Russian-speaking or an Armenian-speaking audience, what would be your CCQs? Okay, bigger and redder. Okay, right. Okay. It's an exotic fruit. Yeah, that depends what you mean by exotic. It is an exotic fruit. It's not grown in most parts of Russia, yes. What sour fruit do people usually eat? Okay. Somebody's asked the question, where can we buy grapefruit? Which raises... Ooh, in Thailand, apparently do interesting things with grapefruit. In the question, where can I buy grapefruit? Why is that not a useful question until you're fairly certain that they know what a grapefruit is? In Russian, the word is the same. Well, that's handy. It uses the word grapefruit, and if the word grapefruit exactly has not been clarified, if you haven't shown them the picture, if you haven't clarified that it's quite sour, but can be eaten maybe with a little bit of sugar or in fruit salad or whatever, then I think the question of, well, where can I buy a grapefruit is not very helpful, is it? Okay. Right. Okie doke. The difference, yeah, is it yellow or pink? Exactly. You can answer with the word shop also. Do you like it? Olga, an interesting question, but on the other hand, how certain are you that your audience will ever have eaten grapefruit? Yeah, again, that's something. Is it yellow or pink? Is it a fruit? Possibly, yes, absolutely. A big version of an orange. Okay, yeah. It's sometimes sold as under the name of pomelo or pomelo, okay, I think, which is another name for the bigger ones. Okay, good, wonderful. So, good, I can see lots of questions coming through there, yeah? I did some research, Ekaterina, and it seems that in some contexts, pomelo is another word for a type of grapefruit. Yeah. And the sweeter end of the range, exactly. Yeah, okay, good, wonderful. So, right, and having clarified meaning and modeled and drilled adequately, what's the next stage? Before you get to the practice, how do you know they can write it? Yes, there's all kinds of practice tasks that you can do with them, but you do need to present the written form first, don't you? And not just the word, as we said, but also the word in collocations. Okay, and are you going to tell them the spelling, or are you going to ask them to help you spell it? This is one of the things that I often do is, okay, right, well done, we got that far now. How do I spell it? Okay, and if I'm working in a physical classroom, then I will only write what they tell me, and if they give me the letters of the alphabet wrong, then I'll write them wrong, whatever. Okay, yes, you can show grape and fruit, and you can break it down like that. Absolutely, well done. Okay. Okay, so all of that I've now put on your screen in different stages. Okay, I'd like you to read each and every stage and decide which order they come in. For example, what is the first stage there? Okay, what is the first stage? Is it number 1? Concept, check the meaning of the new word. Okay, right, good. Getting a lot of people now saying 5. Well done. Okay, what about the rest? Two. Someone's saying 2. Interesting choice. Yeah. Okay. Somebody, you've got number 3. Number 3 is the first one? Do you know, I'm not really very certain about that. Okay. Some people are putting 3 at the end. Okay, right. Still a lot of people starting with 5. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if I really agree with you there. Okay, lovely. Okay, yeah, Albertina's just written 2, so I'm going to take that as her suggestion that 2 is in fact the first one, and you'd be absolutely right. You need to convey the meaning, you need to show that picture first, or define your word in order to be able to elicit it. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we need to do that first. So number 2, yeah. Number 5, and then, somebody's got number 6 after that. Yeah, remember, do we drill first or do we check the meaning first? Yeah, we concept check the meaning. Okay, so yeah, 2, 5, 1, and then 3 or 4. Okay, this is fascinating. 4, then I think 4, you need to provide a clear model. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. You can't expect people to drill anything if you haven't actually modeled it for them, okay? So, yeah, model, grapefruit, and then I think, don't you think it should be number 6? Having modeled it, you need to drill it, okay? And finally, what's the last one? Yes. I think the last one is number 3. Finally, you put the written form on the board. Okay, right, so this is the right order. Okay, I've changed the numbers. Don't panic, don't panic, don't panic. Okay, but essentially, this is now the order that you need to be looking at. Yeah, to convey, first of all, show you a picture, like I did. Define it. Okay, you can also tell a little story about it to elicit the word, because sometimes there just isn't a picture, particularly as you go higher up the levels, and Lexis tends to become a little more abstract. So, for example, okay, I remember one time when I was in school, which is a very long time ago, okay, and I was in primary school, and I went to school in those days with a friend of mine called Geraldine. Okay, Geraldine lived in the next street to me, and we would one of our mothers would take us to school, and then we would walk home together as we got older. But still, they said to us when we were in the baby class, when we were only 5, our mother said to us, "You will not go home alone. You will wait." for someone to go with you. And one day, it was raining and we couldn't see either her mother or my mother outside the door. And so we went back into the classroom. There's a special classroom where you could wait. And we were happily waiting there, drawing pictures and doing stuff and so on and so forth. And then suddenly, I think it was my mother, she came into the classroom and she said, "I have been waiting for you in the rain." How do you think she felt? She was unhappy, but I think she was a little more than unhappy. She was upset, angry, okay, somewhere between angry, annoyed, upset. Don't think I've seen the word yet. She wasn't anxious because she knew exactly where we were. Irritated, furious is a little too strong, yeah? Cross, thank you, Marina. She was cross. Much underused word, don't you think? Okay, so she had no real reason to be disappointed. She was a little cross. Well, no, she was quite cross because she was wet and because she didn't think that we had been outside the school at the right time. But yes, upset, you could also say, very similar word. Okay, right. And of course, you can elicit new words by asking for the opposite. Okay, so if we have cross or annoyed, slightly irritated, upset, what would be an antonym? What would be the opposite? Pleased, possibly. Yeah, quite calm. Yeah. Delighted, I think, is going a little too far, but no, maybe cheerful, possibly serene. Lovely. You're giving me all of these fabulous synonyms, yeah? And of course, using synonyms and antonyms is a very good way of eliciting, once you have the basic meaning, of eliciting similar words with similar meanings, and then obviously you need to organize it in terms of some kind of cline, okay? So if I'm saying, upset, and it's a personal thing. Some people would say upset was the bottom of the cline and furious was at the top of the cline, and cross somewhere in between. Some people would put cross at the bottom of the line and then go up through whatever. Yes, okay. Well, do you know, that's an interesting point you, over the moon, an interesting point you make there, Katerina. Who is to say which words are widely used? Problem with Lexis, particularly as you go up through the levels, is that it becomes a very personal thing. And you'll find people using certain words. So as people, we have preferences in words. We don't necessarily know that we have preferences, but we do. Okay, so while I would say cross and quite possibly upset, other people would talk about being irritated, and it can be a very personal thing. Yeah, some people apparently at some stage talked about it raining cats and dogs. Other people merely restrict themselves to pointing out it's raining very heavily, or it's coming down, or it's bucketing down. As when I was a child, it's bucketing down. For the same thing. So we have words and phrases which are very, very personal, and therefore I think the idea of the word being widely used is sometimes not very helpful. There are words, sometimes there are regional differences, which particularly between the UK and America, and you get lots of Americans and Brits going to each other, what? How did you feel exactly? Okay, but that's easily sorted out. Yeah. Yes, Elizabeth, some people, students, learners do get confused if you don't write things down. But on the other hand, if you were to write down some of the words, they begin to try and say those words and they don't get them right, or they mispronounce them. And that's also not particularly helpful, don't you think? Yeah, so we always try to convey the word, the meaning and the sound of that word, as we spoke about yesterday first. Okay, right. Yeah, a lot of students often ask, okay, what is that word? Can we see the word? And you go, well, yes. Yeah, that's fine. In a minute. You know, just sort of. You can show them the picture while you pronounce it, but as I say, Ekaterina, the problem is that too many people will not listen to you. Think about it. Teenagers and adults, do they listen better or do they read better? Can you do both equally well at the same time? Exactly. Most people will read better. And if they read a word and they don't know what it sounds like, their brains may automatically program a false image of that sound. And that can be really, really difficult to get rid of. Yeah. If you're working with little children up to the age of 9 or 10, then yes, they listen better. In general, they pick up words and then they worry about reading it later. Yeah. And I think this is something that we need to continue. We need to think about how it's said first. And then you can worry about what it looks like. Okay. Yeah. Numbers, how many words in one lesson? That's a very good question. Course books seem to think that, 10, 15, 20, or even 25 words is perfectly acceptable, but is it realistic? In a 45-minute lesson? No. Yeah. Even in, around 6 to 8 is going to be realistic. In a lesson anywhere up to 90 minutes, because you want these people to retain the words. If you want them to retain the words, you've got to cut down on the sheer number of words. Yeah, and you've got to recycle those words forever and ever and ever. Okay, so yeah, I don't think it really depends on the level at all. I think every level, there's only so much the brain can assimilate at any one time. And I think, 6, 7, maybe 8 is enough, basically. Yeah. Okay, right. So, having conveyed the meaning, we showed a picture, we've elicited the word now, we take whatever our learners give. It's not a guessing game, remember? Okay, so if our learners might say limon, because that's the word that they know, then okay, yay, lovely, lemon. Okay, so you take whatever they give to you and you send it back to them, but the correct form. Okay. Yeah, there are many new words in the textbook. Yeah, I appreciate that. And the year plan. I never said that school syllabuses were particularly useful or helpful. Okay, right. Having got the word, the first model, then you need obviously to check the meaning of the new word, particularly if it's not clear through the picture. Okay, then the clear oral model of that word, then you drill it, and then you write it on the board. Okay, so just so I know, Spotlight is just not nice. I know. I'm sorry. I do feel sorry for you, but whatever. You might want to focus, if you're in Spotlight, you might want to focus then on the words that you think will be most useful. And there are ways and means of checking that through Google, quite simply, or through the Quopera. Right, or you might just focus on 6 and then gradually, okay, tomorrow the same 6 plus 1 or 2. And then the next day, the same 8 plus 1 or 2, until you get through the whole of the Lexis for a unit. On the screen right now, you can see rationales, reasons, explanations, whatever you prefer, for each of these 6 stages. Do you think the rationales match the stages? So if you look at number 1, convey the meaning by showing a visual, and look at A, they need to hear it before they can see it. Does that match? No, of course it doesn't. That would be too easy, wouldn't it? Because I want you to think about this as well. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now I'd like you to have a little bit of a look at what you can see. And in the chat box, yes, Olga, I'd like you to write, for example, if you think, for example, D is a good thing with number 1, then you need to write in the chat box 1D. Okay, 2A apparently. 1C, okay, interesting. Oh, this is interesting. This is fascinating. It's suddenly gone dark outside. Oh dear. Must be a cloud over the sun. 6E. That's new. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Every time I look a little to the side, I'm looking at a second screen, which is 1 slide ahead of me. Okay. 4D. Really? Think about that. Okay. 5F. Yeah. Okay. 6E. Had a number of people suggesting 6E. 2A. Not sure about that. Okay. 4A. Ooh. Okay. Yes. If this wasn't such a big event, or if this wasn't a webinar but a workshop, then I would be in a physical classroom forcing you to address pieces of paper. If I were online, I'd be using Jamboard and having you moving stuff around my screen. Yeah. Well, you know, TKT basics are a good place to start. They go through CELTA basics, and they're still true and valid at Delta level, aren't they? You just keep adding to the whole thing. Okay, let's see if you are right. Okay. And I think most of you did get the right answers by the end. Yeah, it's easier if it's on the board in front of you. Yay! Elizabeth, I like your excitement. That's lovely. Okay. Okay, right. Is there anything on the screen that seems a little odd to you? Or does it now suddenly make perfect sense? Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of teachers don't check enough is meaning. I think, as we said yesterday, checking meaning, you're finding the right questions to check meaning can be quite challenging. But also, it's something that the more you do it, the easier it becomes. As I'm sure some of you can confirm. Okay, so the next question is, okay, if I go back to my lemon, you remember the lemon way back when? Okay, and I finally got to the written form. I finally got to stage 6. It's taken me quite a while, hasn't it, really, to get to stage 6, but I've got there now, so yay. What am I going to actually write? FCE vocabulary can be harder to present. This is very true, and this is why we're thinking of synonyms, antonyms, stories, you know, any other way. If there is a visual that can help a story, run with it. What can you see here? Okay, and now what's going to happen next, and blah, 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 and try and elicit things, from your students, okay? And remember, if you're eliciting from a group of students and they all speak Russian, then, and somebody gives you a Russian word, then you know, aha, they've understood me, fine, let me accept that and give them the word, okay? It really is not a guessing competition, it's not a memory competition, okay? Unnerving, oh, there's a lovely word, yes, can't it just? Okay, I think when you get to CAE and CPE, you need to work a lot with definitions, and clear contexts always help those definitions, yeah? If they then ask for a translation, then, okay, ask the class collectively to think about it, and if anybody has a word to offer, or a phrase to offer, okay, and if they do, and if it's right, accept it, make sure everyone's heard it, move on. Yeah, it is, jumbling up letters is thing that children do, but it's actually extraordinarily challenging, isn't it? If you don't know what the word is, it can be very, very challenging to unjumble that word in the first place. But anyway, if you've tried for quite a long time, give them the word in whatever language they need, and then go back through the clarification. Okay, and then you'll get there. Okay, so looking at the lemon. Okay, so what information have I given you here? Exactly, I've given you a part of speech. I've said it's a noun, okay, and clearly this is something that with each class you have to look at, okay, what's a noun, what's a verb, what's an adjective, what's an adverb, and so on and so forth, and come up with your own way of signaling that. Okay, yeah, I've put at in front of it, indicating, as Irina and many others have pointed out, that it is countable. Okay, and I've highlighted the stress, okay? In a physical class, or if I had on-screen annotation, which don't you just love Zoom and the on-screen annotations? Absolutely fabulous. Then you can highlight it in whatever way you think is useful. And again, you can ask your learners, okay, is it, if you've modeled it accurately, a lemon, a lemon, a lemon. Okay, first syllable, second syllable. Is it a lemon or a lemon? Okay, and again, that's quite important in different contexts. Okay, right. So I've given that, but you know, I'm not certain that that's enough. Sounded so Russian with lemon. Yes, also French, interestingly. Unhelpfully, but yes. Citrus fruits have bad an empty stomach. That's an interesting statement, Irina. I was not aware of that. I will bear it in mind. Thank you. It's fascinating what people come up with. Okay. The article is important. What else? What other kinds of information do you think, or what else do you think I might write here? Is it only just the word? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, getting idioms and register. Yeah. Well, if it's an irregular plural there, I think it would be useful. Is lemon an irregular plural? Don't think so. There are very few of those. Okay, collocations, absolutely. Yeah. Possibly a transcription. Possibly. If your students understand transcription. If they don't, why worry them still further? Okay, maybe highlight the transcription of the vowel sound, as in lemon. Okay, but yes, collocations, a sour lemon. This is a very sour lemon. I love lemon cake. Yeah, I really do, actually. My grandmother used to make lemon cake as a special treat because when I was a kid, lemons were actually quite expensive. Bitter lemon, yes. If you're talking to adults, maybe bitter lemon, as in the drink, bitter lemon would be more useful. Okay, so it's all about finding collocations that are useful to your lemon curd. Yeah. And you know, there are whole groups of British people outside of Britain who get together and they make lemon curd and they exchange lemon curd recipes. Okay, so all kinds of things there, and it's up to us, I think, to give our learners options. Okay, so that they can tea with lemon. Yeah, that's an acquired taste. I'm drinking honey and lemon at the moment because I keep losing my voice. Sour, Annie, sour. A sour lemon, sour. Okay. This is a very sour lemon. Bitter we tend to use only in the drink, interestingly, and I think that's another thing. The taste is sour, but when we drink it, it's suddenly bitter lemon. It comes out of a bottle or a can, and you put it in a glass of maybe, I don't know, what do you mix bitter lemon with? Gin and bitter lemon? Sounds awful, doesn't it? Okay, right. Are you really, Anastasia? Well, that's wonderful. Well, it's not wonderful. It's rather unfortunate, isn't it? I'm allergic to lemons. Yes. Okay. Yeah, you could with lower levels also usefully revise the colors. Because I think with children we do a lot of work with colors automatically, but with adults, teenagers and adults, we don't. And I think it's very easy to forget the colors. I was forever forgetting the colors and mixing up the colors in Russian. Simply because my Russian teacher, well, Russian teachers, there were a series of them, never actually really did much revision, and certainly not of things that they thought were babyish. But color is so important in our lives. Okay. I love lemon cake. Why not a cake? Okay, if we think of cake as something big, it's more of a mass than it is something which is countable. This is my personal take on it. If you're the type of person that is going to bake a tray of little lemon cakes, well, that's fine. Then they're countable suddenly. My grandmother always baked big cakes. Dandelion jam. Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Right. A poorly designed vehicle is a lemon? Do you know, I don't think we do. Really? No. A lemon can, however, be used, and I'm sure Neil's going to correct me here at some point. Something that doesn't work very well. Some suggestion that's been made, or some even people who don't fit into whatever group they're supposed to be in. You might refer to them as a bit of a lemon, really. But I'm not sure that that's very modern these days. Okay, so right. Moving on. If you look on your screen, you have how many different contexts or examples of teachers trying to teach vocabulary. How many different examples? Is it, Irina? Thank you. Okay, I'll make a note of that, and when we get dandelions again next spring, I shall look at that. 6. Thank you, Zhenya. Okay, so yeah, there are 6 different situations there. Let's have a look together at the first one. Okay, so as you can see, the teacher's talking. Yes. Now the expression I want to teach you is. Well, you know, it's a phrasal verb, run on, you know, with the verb plus the particle. And anyway, that's what I want to teach. And it means it continues longer than you expected. That's when you're talking about a show or a film or something like that. Problem? What's the problem? And you won't believe it, but it's difficult to get the meaning. You won't believe it, but I observed a lesson yesterday evening, and the teacher was teaching phrasal verbs, and he talked for 5 minutes about phrasal verbs. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing in there. There are no questions. It's way too long. It's using things like words like expressions and phrasal verbs, and it's got a particle in there. What on earth is a particle? You know, if I'm not a linguist, what is a particle? And so on and so on and so forth. Yeah, and there's not one question. So at the end of that long spiel, does the teacher know that any of his learners understand what run on mean? They have no idea. Exactly. Exactly. Because it's yeah. I think phrasal verbs are very difficult, very challenging to teach. Does anyone have any idea of the university? You had a good time at university, obviously. Does anyone have a good idea for possibly teaching phrasal verbs? Well, yeah, indeed. Possibly. All right, songs, good idea, because the thing about phrasal verbs, unfortunately for the rest of the world, we really do use phrasal verbs, whereas, you know, in many other parts, I think it's easier for learners to get the more formal word here, which would be continue or too long. Exactly. You can do that. You can use good. All sorts of things coming out here. Lovely. Yeah. Okay. I think comparing also, if you have, say, 5 or 6 phrasal verbs and you have their non-phrasal equivalents, then, for example, carry on, continue. Yeah. Deal with, manage, for example, okay? And I think it would be a good idea to introduce the concept of trying to get them to match with context, obviously, the phrasal verbs with their less phrasal meaning, with the more formal, if you will, verb that goes with it. Oh yes, the show must go on. Yes, bless. They do, yes, absolutely. Okay, so there are many different things, but just talking like that is not going to help us. Okay, right. What's wrong with B? I'm not going to read it out. You can read yourselves. What's wrong with B? Yep, absolutely. Indeed, yeah. And if I were the learner there, who trying to figure out what means, and I've been in this situation in myself when learning language. How do you think the learner feels in that way? Yes, I am the boss. Okay, confused, maybe, stressed, very possibly, irritated, miserable, I think less so. Nice idea though. I think, well, it depends on the person, obviously. Frustrated, absolutely. Discouraged, absolutely. Yeah, I would get cross. I would get cross, and I probably would be the one to stand up and say, okay, you're going to have to tell me what this means right now. But many students are not in a position to stand up and be bullshit about things, you know? Many students just go, when can I leave? Which is not useful for them. Okay, so no meaning. What about C? Too many words, absolutely. The teacher, in fairness to that teacher, is trying to define something, is trying to elicit the word, but 12 words is just way too much, really and truly, yes. A picture of a caretaker, well, short of showing a person wearing a shirt saying, I am the caretaker, and giving them a brush, I think it's going to be difficult. Yeah, okay. But yes, too many words. What about D? Yeah, and this is one of the things that we've discussed already, isn't it? Yeah, I've written up this new word on the board. Okay, so there's absolutely no explanation, exactly. And given that half of the learners would not have been listening to start with, then I'm going to have leveraga, leverage, leverager, if you factor in a Russian, then there's going to be a yet in there somewhere, at the very least, you know, so we're all over the place. We're not listening to the person. It's not helpful. Okay, right. What about E? Dina, yeah, if you want to boost curiosity, then maybe, yes. Although I still think that combining with pictures and also giving a context is going to be much more useful, isn't it, really? Okay, the foliage thing there, yeah, the example is not clear enough, and this is the problem. Yeah, so the teacher's trying really, really hard, has figured out that foliage is quite a difficult word there, and has tried to give some context, okay, but has not really given enough context, have they? That's the problem. Okay, yeah. Because we're still, something was thick and I couldn't see the sun. Okay, well, that could be the clouds, couldn't it, really? You know, and there could be all sorts of things. And I think, exactly, fog. Yeah, I hear Moscow was covered in fog yesterday, or Monday, was it? I don't know. I did hear there was some fog issues. Oh, it was smog, was it? Oh, well, that's fun, isn't it? 2 whole days. Well, there you go. Yeah, shades of, was it 2010? Okay, so yeah, not enough context. And what about F? Nice word, peripheral. Much underused, I think. But well, there you have it. What's the problem? Absolutely. Well, yes, the question there, a lot of people think that, does everyone understand, is a perfectly useful CCQ. Really? Really? Yeah, okay, exactly. So it's not a useful question because, you know, most learners will be too afraid to stand up and say, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, right, good. Lovely. Moving on, I think it's time to finally get to some practice, don't you? And we discussed yesterday that, oops, there it goes. Okay, we're going to start with something fairly simple, okay? I've stuck with my fruit, okay, for this one. And as you can see, it's just, here's a picture, lemon or grapes. Fine. And your learners would underline or highlight the correct word, obviously. That's easy. Okay, the next stage might be something like this. And yes, they could just write the words underneath the fruit, but that is quite boring. So let's make it something like a crossword or a word search. And online there are many, many crossword and word search makers that are very, very useful. You can do jumbled letters as well. Which are sometimes helpful. Okay, Exactly. Yeah, I like crosswords, Agnes. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not expecting you to do it, Artina. Don't worry about it. Quizlet is also very useful at this stage because you've got the cards and so on and so forth. Yeah. So there are all kinds of bits and pieces, ways of doing that. Absolutely. Okay. Right. I'm way behind here. And then the next stage is going to be a little bit more production, isn't it? Putting it in context, giving the learners something to work with. Okay. And again, okay, I'm sticking with fruit. This is more something you'd probably do with very, very low levels. Okay. But you can extend that, obviously. And it can be as personalized as you want. Yeah, British Council Learn English Teams is a good place to start, absolutely. Okay, right. We're going to move on now to approach the challenging subject of functional language. Okay, I'd like you to read the conversation. Look at the picture, read the conversation. And tell me if you think there is an issue with the conversation. Which phrase do you think doesn't fit? Yeah. Okay, yeah, okay, exactly. I was just wondering if you'd mind awfully turning the radio down. Okay. If we assume that Chris is their son, or it says that Chris is their son, would you ask your children, your own children, in such a formal way? Yeah, okay. So, but the function, I think somebody has already mentioned the function. Yeah, I was just wondering if you'd mind awfully turning the radio down. The function is, what does Harry want? Okay, it's a request. Absolutely, it's a request. And the thing about language in general is that we can organize it in so many different functions. It's just not true. And these functions will change, and you'll find various phrases can be classified as different functions in different contexts. So context is all important, isn't it? Okay. If you look at this, yeah, you've got 5 ways of making requests. Okay, in the chat box, please, can you write down just the numbers from the most direct to the most polite? Okay, yeah, I think number 3 is definitely the most direct. And number 4, okay, number 5, number 1, and then number 2. Yeah, so 3, 4, 5, 1, and 2. But the next issue with functional language is, again, that it can be quite personal. And so there are people who would argue about what they see as being more direct or less direct as well. So the native speakers just not clear about these things themselves. As I say, language is a very personal thing. Okay. Now, having established that register is important, obviously, how important is the phonological aspect? That's a long word. The phonology aspect here, and I'm thinking mainly of intonation. Yeah, Jana, in English, as in various other languages, yeah, the shorter the phrase, the more direct. What about intonation? Exactly, because there are ways of saying turn the radio down, which would sound, if not precisely polite, at least much less direct. So it makes a huge difference whether you say turn the radio down or turn the radio down, please. And you're conveying different meaning as well. And I think that's an aspect of functional language that we really do need to work on with our learners if they are ever going to understand how how important it can be. Okay, right. And of course, at the very what you think are the most formal levels or of making a request, there's this attitude. It can actually sound sarcastic, can't it? It can be so formal that it turns around and is sarcastic. You couldn't possibly turn the radio down, could you? All kinds of things going on there. Yeah. Exactly, Paulina. Okay, so what would you say to your boss if you wanted your boss to turn the office radio down? I like that. Well, it depends on the boss, clearly. I'm also saying, oh, good grief. Well, yeah. And again, it will depend entirely on your relationship with your boss. If you've got a boss that you can talk to, then maybe it is okay to say something like, do you think you could just turn that radio down just a little bit? And also there are other ways of saying it. You could suggest brightly that, well, there are specialists who can help you with your hearing. Or a great, when we were kids, my mother would always scream at us to tell to turn whatever down, or just to just generally be quieter, and I can't hear myself think, and things like that. So there are all different ways of doing it. But I think for most people, yeah, would you mind turning the radio down? Yeah. Possibly not. I hate to ask, but maybe something. And again, it's personal. I was just wondering if we could turn that radio down just a little bit, because the guy on the phone is complaining about it, and so on and so forth. Yes. Okay. Here's another situation. Nothing. Yeah, I think I hate to ask is going to be, yeah, if you know that your friend doesn't have this amount of money, then clearly you're not going to ask, you're not going to waste time. But if you think they might have that sum of money, but are otherwise not particularly rich, then I think you would, something like, I hate to ask, or I was just wondering, and you would have asked a rich person. But Eleanor, it's not always that easy, is it? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going to be something, and you'd probably take a long sort of intro, wouldn't you? You'd probably start talking about, well, it's if they say, how are you? Oh, it's been a really tough period, and I lost my job and I had to do this, and then suddenly, the washing machine broke down, and then they sent me the bill for whatever, and the car gave up the ghost, and I, and my daughter is now at university, and I need some money to pay for her university fees, and so on and so on and so forth. Yeah. Tatiana, yeah, don't you just love these people? Okay. It is very, very difficult, exactly. But you would probably look at the more politer range and you'd probably take a long way in. And I think asking students to do that kind of thing in class is one way also of making it quite clear what you're talking about. Exactly. So, if the function in this case is making requests, okay, what do we call all of these phrases? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the function is make requests or making requests, what do we call the different phrases? Exponents, indeed. Thank you. Technically, we call them exponents, or some people say, I think, exponent, but I say exponents. Okay, and I'm just going to stick with that. Exactly. Okay. I'm not sure that students necessarily need to know that, although high-level students, it probably would be very useful, particularly if you get to, B2, C1, and you're in some way revising functions, or you're eliciting the functions. It would be very useful for them to know the word exponent, so that they know what you're talking about, indeed. Okay. So if we're making a request, what other functions would you possibly teach in the same lesson? Modals are always useful, but not functional language in themselves. Exactly. Yes. So how to respond to such a request, and that would subdivide into positive responses and negative responses. Okay, saying yes, fine, super, no problem, absolutely, just a sec, hang on, let me just go to the safe and take out your £2,000 and so on and so forth. Or how to say no. You could even subdivide the whole thing into saying no politely and saying no impolitely, or just saying no, So you'd have people function saying no politely. I'm awfully sorry, but right now I find myself rather short. Okay, or you might say no more directly. Can I borrow 2,000 quid? No, I don't think so. And so on and so forth. No way, obviously. There are so many different possible exponents. And the problem is, and I'm sure you've come up with this against this problem yourselves in the past, the big problem is that, again, this is personal. So different people will say different things in different situations. And your course book is just not going to hack it. Sorry. Yeah. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Well, yeah, and all of these things that you've put in the chat box, they can mean different things to different people in different contexts and with different intonation. And this is our problem as teachers, isn't it? That the course book is going to make suggestions, but essentially the course books are written for a huge audience, which is global and not local. Which means that, again, in real life, people are going to come up with ways of saying things that your students are not going to understand. And as teachers, all we can do is try and use as much authentic language at that stage as possible to confront these people with as many different stages, as many different examples of the functions in use as possible. Okay. Yeah. So it is a bit of a problem there. Okay. Moving on. Having, in this case, elicited the function, it's making a request. Having looked at, we've also, you need to remember also to clarify that, making a request. We've elicited and used some exponents. We have also done some phonology work. So we've modeled and we've drilled and we've done the intonation thing. And we've seen it in practice. Okay, so for example, form here. If we wanted to present form for would you mind, what would you tell your learners? Would you mind plus verb plus ing, exactly. And that bit is important, isn't it? So that we all know it's would you mind turning the radio down? It's would you mind closing the window? It's would you mind opening the window? It's would you mind changing your pink t-shirt for something less pink? And so on and so on. Yeah? So that your learners are aware of how to continue. What bit changes? That's, with functional language, generally the most important bit. Yeah? What bit changes? And how does it change? Okay. Gerund is a very technical word. Go with verb plus ing. So much easier to hang on to. Okay, so having done all of that, we now need to practice, don't we? So, for example, we can ask them to put that conversation in the right order. Okay, assuming A and B are people, and frankly, at this point, referring back to what we talked about yesterday, I think I would have given A and B names just to make it easier, because nobody is called A or B in general. Okay, not a standard thing at all. So I think I would have given these people names. But anyway, their conversation is clearly not in the correct order. Anyone going to go for it? Apparently not. What's the first line? Right. Good start. Wonderful. And then? Okay, good. Doing well, people. Well done. And then? Yeah, I think 3. 5, 2, 3, absolutely. After 3. Okay, let me put you out of your misery here. Okay. Out of interest, identify the exponent for making a request. Which is the exponent for making a request? Exactly. Yeah, my hands are covered in flour. Okay. Obviously, these two people know each other well, and clearly, in this context, all my hands are covered in flour means I cannot get to answer my phone. Would you please answer it for me? Okay, so, and I think that's also something that's important to mention to our learners, that, well, seriously, my hands are covered in flour, you would never guess that in the right context, with the right people, this is actually making a request. Okay, and that's the great thing. And I'm sure it's not just English. I'm quite confident that it applies to other languages as well. Except, I think, if we think about our own language, does anyone ever remember being taught about functions in language, in their own language, in Russian or Armenian or English? No, exactly. Okay, university, only if you're really studying linguistics, possibly, and a very specific part of linguistics. Otherwise, no. Okay, so, and I think it's important for us as teachers to realize this whole issue and to keep making that point. Okay, right. So, okay, we've done that one. I'm going to move on here. This is a hint for help. The first request ever, the baby crying. Absolutely. And how quickly babies and toddlers learn how to put requests of this nature. Okay, so there's a question on your screen right now. Yeah, I'm not sure what an authentic textbook is, but yes, there are textbooks that do make more of an effort to deal with functional language, and there are course books that don't, or make much less of an effort. I'm shying. I'm shying clear of things like good and not good, because frankly, I think course books are all very, very different. There is no course book that was ever written for you and for that particular group of students that you happen to be working with right now. And it may not be the same course book with the next group of students because it doesn't fit exactly. Some course books are quite, this is cutting edge, which prided itself initially on being a sort of a task-based thing and making a lot of its language, presenting a lot of its language in chunks like this. Okay, but then that's what they did. Here's a box, useful language, off you go. Right? Oh, thank you for that clarification there, Maria. Okay, good point. I think there are, this is very standard. This is what a lot of course books do. Yes, they just throw this at you and they say, well, here it is, deal with it. And there's very little help for eliciting it, for then clarifying it, for practice and so on and so forth. Exactly. Okay. Whereas this other course book, this is face-to-face, makes much more of an effort. Okay, so they've actually got a whole unit on it. They call it real world, whatever, and they have, they try to elicit it, they try to clarify it. You can see here, okay, they've given this whole thing, they've said which verb form comes after these phrases, and then they've given some kind of practice. It varies a lot, depending on the course book. One of my favorite course books was a thing called English Unlimited, which everybody else hated it. Everybody else hated because it was basically functional language. Not only, and it didn't actually call it functional language, which was very unfortunate. It called it task language because it was language you needed to do a task. That was their rationale. Fair enough, whatever. And if you look at the English Limited starter, they hammered them with functional language from day one. And I think actually that is a useful attitude because in life, we don't go around saying words. And that's what when I first went to Moscow about 14 years ago now, I really struggled. My Russian was never great. Let's be perfectly honest about this. My Russian was never what you'd call fluent or useful. But, and I also lived in a part of Moscow at that time which didn't have a supermarket. Yes, they did exist. because I lived there. Yay. That meant I had to go into the individual shops and the kiosks and the market stalls and so on and so forth. I had to engage in conversation with these people. And my Russian teacher hadn't a clue about functional language. She was all about, well, and there's this ending, and now we're going to do 658,000 exercises practicing this ending. So unhelpful, you know. So I think functional language is very useful, and I think we all need to think about it. Make up their own dialogues, yes. Or give them, I think, the thing with making up dialogues is it's speaking, isn't it? So I think give them cards with situations and then get them to try and resolve the situation, I think is a useful thing. Sometimes we have functional language for different writing genres as well. In which case, obviously making them write something using that is going to be a good idea, isn't it? Okay. Well, yeah, small talk is all about functional language. Okay. And if you think about also any kind of, where was I going with that? Any kind of interaction using text messaging. Do we use functional language in text messaging? I think we do. And so why not get them to message each other in class? Perfectly valid thing. If you want to see the messages, then maybe you should be using Padlet, for example, or the traditional paper going around. Okay, right. So I'm pretty much done for today. Yeah, functional language, it's pretty much the same there. Okay, there's a question in the question box. It would take, Anna says, if we had to present quite a long list then of words, then yes, it is going to take a very long time to get through that list if you're going to do this in great detail. But the problem is, do you want your learners to be able to parrot this list off for the next test, or do you want your learners to be able to remember at least some of these words and use some of these words in the future? And I think if the second answer is your answer, then I think we do have to cut down on the number of items presented in one lesson and try and add to or build on those items gradually. Okay, and I know as teachers, as school teachers particularly, it's a very, very tight balance or tightrope act that we're having to play between preparing the learners or the students solely to pass tests, which is pointless, or whether we're preparing learners to actually be able to use this language. It's very, very difficult sometimes to make choices. Okay, I can see that Julia has made it back online.